And I was so shocked. I said, if half of what he's saying is true, I'm wasting my time, making the internet go 10 times faster.
और अपने स्वार्थ में हम अपनों को ही खाते हैं, अपनों को ही लूटते हैं, अपनों का ही शोषण करते हैं.
Think about all the other animals. They all know what to eat. We don't even know what to eat. Somebody is eating the brains of a monkey, somebody else is eating lizards, somebody is eating insects.
और इसीलिए ये लक्ष्मी मेरे घर पे अटकी रहे, इसलिए हम लक्ष्मी की जो मूर्ति है, जो पूजा भी है, उसका स्थापना करके अंदर करते हैं ताकि लक्ष्मी अंदर रह जाए. नमस्कार दोस्तों, आज हमारी खुशकिस्मती हमारे साथ है डॉक्टर शैलेश राव.
नमस्कार.
सो डॉक्टर शैलेश राव ने कम्युनिकेशन में बहुत काम किया है, पर वहां से सडनली आ गए पर्यावरण पे. सो व्हाट वाज इट दैट मेड यू शिफ्ट from communication, the IT network, onto environmental aspects or climate aspects? It happened something in 2006.
2005 December. So one day it was very cold. I came home. I sat down on the sofa, turned on the TV, and there was Al Gore talking about climate change. And I was so shocked. I said, if half of what he's saying is true, I'm wasting my time, making the internet go 10 times faster. So I told my wife that, and she said, if you think it's that important, why don't you look into it? So I started looking into it, and within 3 months, I realized it's far worse than what he was saying. So, no question. I had to give up.
Had to give up का क्या मतलब है? You quit all your work, आपने अपने सारे काम छोड़ दिए?
सारे काम छोड़ दिया. So I basically closed down my company. I was running my own company, working on 10 gigabit Ethernet, making the same thing 10 times faster. And I helped all my employees get jobs, and then I closed down the company and I started focusing on this full time.
तो साहब इंटरनेट में इतने सक्सेसफुल थे, इनका अपना इतना बड़ा कंपनी था, लोग थे, आपको बहुत सारे अवार्ड्स मिले थे, बहुत सारे पेटेंट थे जिनसे कमा रहे थे साहब. और साहब का कहना है कि इन्होंने जो रिसर्च किया उससे उनको वो सारी बातें पता चली जो उनको इतना झंझोड़ दिया कि उन्होंने सब कुछ बंद कर दिया. टोटल
सब कुछ बंद कर दिया है.
और उसके बाद आपने ये एनजीओ खोला.
राइट. सो आई स्टार्टेड द एनजीओ क्लाइमेट हीलर्स इन 2007 December, basically to figure out how to solve climate change, how to heal the climate, and because until then people were talking about how to maintain it in a high state of disrepair. Meaning, if you have a fever, say you have a 1 degree Celsius fever, and you go to a doctor and the doctor says, I'll make sure it doesn't go over 2 degrees Celsius. Won't you think this doctor is incompetent? He should be addressing your fever, no? But that's what everybody is doing. They're talking about making sure it doesn't go over 2 degrees Celsius. And there is a big debate in the UN. Should it be 1.5 degrees or 2 degrees? I said, guys, you're crazy. We should be talking about making it go down to 0. Right? That's how I would deal with my body. So why would I deal with Mother Earth differently?
शायद people want to deal with it this way because we want to continue our pleasures, our fun. तो जैसे वैसे बने रहने दो और खराब नहीं करते हैं. लेकिन हमारी अय्याशी ना लो आप. So maybe that's why people don't want to make it come down. They want to just sustain it.
Well, that's the way they're thinking, right? But you look at it from a systems angle, there is no stopping it at 1.5 degrees. There is no stopping it at 2 degrees. It's going to keep going up. Because you have a climate heating civilization. Everything we do is about heating the climate. Okay. So how do you then maintain it at 2 degrees Celsius? You cannot.
So Dr. Sailesh Rao, I am saying, what difference does it make? I mean, जहाँ तक मैं समझता हूँ, the earth has been around for 13 billion years.
Right.
Or 13 billion years it was a fire, it was gas, it was frozen. How does it matter to the earth? Climate 1 degree, 2 degree ऊपर नीचे हो.
Yeah, well, 1 degree, 2 degree ऊपर नीचे, if it happens in 10,000 years, it's okay. If it happens in 100 years, that's a fever. See, it's like saying, your body temperature is now 98. And then you say, a goat has a body temperature of 100 degrees Fahrenheit. If the goat is happy at 100 degrees, why aren't you happy at 100 degrees? They say, I'm not a goat. Well, the earth is not meant to have 1 degree extra temperature right now. If it happens over 10,000 years, then she will adjust. Okay, but if it happens so quickly, it's impossible to adjust. It's like a fever, and everything dies when that happens.
So when you say she will adjust, you mean Mother Nature will adjust with the trees and the animals, exactly, and all of that.
Right.
वरना the planet, the globe को फर्क नहीं पड़ता.
Yeah, life will adjust if it happens very slowly. When it happens very quickly, life cannot adjust. It's like a fever, right? So we can evolve over time as a species. We can evolve to have a body temperature of 100 degrees, maybe, right? If you want to. But right now, if you have a 100-degree temperature, you have a fever.
I have a fever,
right?
So how is your work different? आपका काम ये जो दूसरे पर्यावरण प्रेमी हैं, इनसे कैसे अलग है? क्योंकि ज़्यादातर मेरे ख्याल से वो सारे यही बोलते हैं कि ग्रीन हाउस गैस एमिशन रोक देते हैं, कम कर देते हैं, टेम्परेचर और बढ़ने ना दें, जबकि आप कह रहे हो कि नहीं, बढ़ने की छोड़ो, कम करो.
Yes, absolutely.
So उनमें और आप में फ़र्क क्या है? What is the difference, major big difference in your work and those other climate environmentalists?
They are all trying to maintain the system as it is. And I'm saying, I'm a systems engineer, and I'm saying this system is a climate heating system. You cannot maintain it. If you say, I'm going to control it at 2 degrees Celsius or 2, it's going to go away out of your control. Okay. So I say it's because we have created a system that's based on consumerism, that's based on supremacism, which is that consumerism meaning happiness comes from outside.
खाते रहो, भोगते रहो.
Yeah. Keep eating more, right? So when you think happiness comes from outside, there is no limit to it. So everyone wants to consume an infinite amount of stuff. So obviously there is not an infinite amount of stuff on the planet. If everyone wants to be like Jeff Bezos and want to go to Mars, there is not enough on Earth to make that happen, right? So if you think your happiness comes from outside, you're going to keep doing that. So that is a foundational flaw in the system, okay? And that is forcing us to heat the climate. Because everybody's wanting more. And that heats the climate.
So you were saying a couple of points. Consumerism, what else? Supremacism.
Which means that I am superior to that.
पर वो तो सच है. Humans are superior. भगवान ने हमें बनाया ही है इतना सर्वश्रेष्ठ. So many religious books says God created us in His own image.
Right.
So aren't we next to God?
If you have an animal write the book, the animal will say God created animals in His own image. And these are devils because they are hurting us, right? So we have to look at this from a very humble perspective, because think about all the other animals. They all know what to eat. We don't even know what to eat as a species. Somebody is eating brains of a monkey, somebody else is eating lizards, somebody is eating insects, somebody is eating, shakahari. So what is the right thing to eat? We don't even know that. If you don't even know that, you have to be humble. So I say the first thing is humility. Don't assume you're superior to anyone else. Don't assume you're superior to women, men superior to women, or this caste is superior to that caste. All these things are built into the supremacism, and that is driving the climate heating.
So ये supremacism को can I say ये इंसान का अहंकार है कि हम सर्वश्रेष्ठ हैं, हम दूसरे प्रजातियों से बहुत बेहतर हैं. और आप तो इसको यहाँ पे भी जोड़ रहे हो कि आदमी अपने आप को औरत से सुपीरियर ना समझे, प्रजातियों में फर्क ना करे, जातियों में भी फर्क ना करें.
Correct.
You're saying even all of that is wrong.
Right. I mean, I'm saying even that, have some humility. Start being humble before Mother Nature. Because that's Mother Nature's dance. All these other animals and all these other creatures are part of Mother Nature's dance, right? And we are part of the dance as well. If you want to be part of the dance, you have to accept the other dancers.
यानी आप कह रहे हैं कि माँ प्रकृति ने एक नाट्य रचा है और उसमें अलग अलग पात्र हैं और इंसान उसमें से एक पात्र है. one of the characters.
One of the characters with a role to play.
With a role to play.
What is our role? So that's the main question. What is our role as a species? And as soon as we admitted that we are changing the climate of the planet, we found a role. Because our responsibility is to prevent that climate from going crazy, to maintain it. Okay. And we have done that. Our ancestors for the last 10,000 years have been heating the climate. And they prevented the earth from going back to another ice age. If they hadn't done that, the earth would have gone back to another ice age 5,000 years ago. So they kept the temperature constant, and now they have given it to us saying, now you know that we are heating the climate. So now start maintaining it. So we become like the thermostat species of the planet.
I didn't understand this.
Yeah.
So last 10,000 years, you're saying since the Homo sapiens really started becoming smarter, they have agriculturists, they have been maintaining the climate how?
By cutting down trees. Initially it was all by cutting down trees and raising animals. The animals actually put a lot of methane into the atmosphere, which is also a greenhouse gas, right? So by putting methane and carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, we kept the temperature constant. We kept the carbon dioxide levels also constant, right? Around 280 parts per million. It didn't go down. Whereas 3 ice ages ago, the same thing happened and the temperature, the carbon dioxide level went down and the earth went back to ice age within 5,000 years.
So you're saying 10,000 साल से जो इंसान ने किया, carbon dioxide emission, methane emission and whatever, that kind of helped the atmosphere and the earth going back into the ice age.
Yeah, it stopped it.
So वो एक तरह से अच्छा था.
अच्छा था.
पर अभी हमने जो वो 10,000 साल में उन्होंने किया वो हम 100 साल में कर रहे हैं. We're doing all of it in 100 years
100
only.
years we raised it by 1 degree Celsius. But when we raised it by 1 degree Celsius, we also built the internet that connected us around the whole world, right? We built cameras, we built thermometers so we can actually measure the temperature. We know the earth has a fever now because we can measure the temperature. And now we have satellites that can monitor the greenhouse gases. So we have built all of the tools and technologies we need to maintain the temperature, right? So that's our responsibility. And now we have to tell our children, this is what your role is. You have to take care of the animals, you have to take care of the temperature of the planet so that everybody lives a happy life.
So क्या बोलना क्या है आपका? आपका बोलना क्या है कि टेम्परेचर जो बढ़ रहा है उसको खाली मेंटेन ही नहीं करो, उसको अभी हमें रिवर्स करना है.
रिवर्स करना?
कैसे? हाउ? व्हाट? अब आप सजेस्ट क्या कर रहे हो?
राइट.
क्या करें?
So the planet 10,000 years ago used to have 6 trillion trees.
6 trillion
trees. Today it has 3 trillion trees. Every tree is CO2 in the atmosphere, sequestered on the ground. So if you bring back the 3 trillion trees that we cut, you will cool the climate. And that means bringing back the wild animals that we killed. And how do we do that? By going vegan. As soon as we go vegan, you release 40% of the land area of the planet back to nature. Okay, that's how much land is being used just to graze animals, right? So if you release that land back to nature, you can bring back the forests on that land. And we can do that as a species. We know how to do that. We have done it in lots of places, right? And now it's just applying it in a bigger scale and making it happen.
So when we have a lot more trees, those trees will take in the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere because all of us are carbon-based creatures,
right,
including trees.
Right.
And trees for their entire photosynthesis also absorb carbon dioxide?
Everything. See, all the weight of a tree was carbon dioxide that used to be in the atmosphere.
Right.
Half of it. Because basically the other half is mostly water. So it's a tree is a carbon store, so to speak, and everything in the carbon store came from the atmosphere. So, but whatever weight the tree has, twice as much weight is in the soil. So, because the tree then drops leaves and makes soil, and that soil has twice as much carbon as the tree itself. When you chop down a tree, that soil carbon also goes away.
So, can I not borrow this and say that the way a tree sequesters the carbon from the atmosphere, even the animals that we are growing,
right,
even they are taking in the atmosphere,
right,
carbon dioxide from the atmosphere.
But
so
the difference is the weight of the animals is so tiny compared to the weight of the trees. Trees, there is 9 trillion tons of CO2 right now in the soil and in the trees. Okay, 9 trillion tons of CO2. All the weight of the animals, weight of all the animals that we raise today, is about 1,000 million tons of carbon. 1,000 million, it's 1 billion ton. So where is 3 trillion and 1 billion? That's a factor of 3,000 right there, right?
Yeah, 1,000 billion makes a trillion.
Right.
And Shayad, secondly, a tree in its life continues taking away carbon dioxide.
It takes carbon dioxide and then it puts it into its trunks, but then it stops growing after a while. But then it keeps building in the soil also, right? The soil has twice as much CO2 as the tree itself.
Whereas an animal is possibly only releasing carbon dioxide in its life.
It's basically eating and releasing carbon dioxide in its life, right? But it's also a store of carbon.
Okay.
Yeah, 20% of our body weight is carbon that used to be in the atmosphere, right? So in that sense, we are a carbon store, but we are tiny compared to the trees. If we look at the weight of all the human beings on the planet, put it together, it will weigh as much as one small mountain.
So I know a lot of my friends, मेरे बहुत सारे दोस्त हैं जो पर्यावरण प्रेमी हैं, who are environmentalists, who also are climate healers in their own way. Right. They totally disagree with you when you say they have to be vegan. A vegan is the way.
Right.
So is it necessary to be vegan?
Well, to me, veganism puts a line on the sand and says, I'm not going to cross that line. But I say, as soon as you cross the line saying, I can exploit animals, you will descend all the way to the bottom, right? To a point where you might as well just exploit everything. And then you will be heating the climate. Okay. This is why we still haven't started cooling the climate. We've been talking about this for 30, 40 years now, right? Why isn't the climate cooling? You've been working on it for 40 years. Why isn't the climate cooling? Because you haven't gone vegan yet, right? I mean, unless you go vegan and release that land back to nature and have that attitude of humility, you're not going to get there. Okay. So first of all, we have to release our ego.
So those aspects थोड़ा आध्यात्मिक spirituality की ओर जाते हैं. तो we'll come around that. लेकिन यहाँ पे what you're trying to say is we have to draw that line because ये तय नहीं कर सकते कि कितना शोषण करें. आपका मानना है कि अगर आपने शोषण करना शुरू किया तो उसकी कोई सीमा नहीं होती है. फिर आप थोड़ा और करोगे और होते जाएगा.
Because as soon as you say I can exploit an animal for dairy, milk. Well, if you are exploiting the animal for dairy and you are removing the mother from the child, then you are saying that mother-child relationship is not important, right? It's our consumption of chai is more important than the mother-child relationship between a cow and a calf. We are saying that, right? And if that is, so that's the price of that relationship, then what is the value of a tiger? What is the value of a tree? So you start looking at everything as, no, they're not worth my chai. Okay. So at some point you'll descend all the way down to saying, let's just take whatever we can for ourselves, and you will heat the climate. Okay. So I'm just saying, whatever we have done so far, it's okay. It's just that we now have to realize that we've gone too far, and we have to start cooling. And to start cooling, you have to change your mindset from a heating mindset to a cooling mindset. A heating mindset is all about the ego. Okay, it's all about saying it's me, 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 me. Give it to me. I want more. That's the system we have now, right? And that's obviously going to heat, right? But you say, can I say I want more and cool, and saying you're dreaming. It'll never happen.
It is sounding to me like your we started work for the climate, for the environment. हमने ये काम शुरू किया पर्यावरण के लिए और वहाँ पे हमने जब पूरा मुद्दा देखना शुरू किया, when we started looking at the entire thing, we found कि we have to be kind to animals, we have to be compassionate, हमें दूसरे प्राणियों के प्रति प्रेम होना चाहिए, करुणा होना चाहिए. और अब आप कह रहे हैं कि हम जब तक अपने अंदर के ये अहम को न मारें, till we don't kill this ego in us, till we don't stop consumerism, till we don't become humble, जब तक हम विनम्र न बने, ये पूरा सफर हमें अब आध्यात्म की ओर ले जाता है. You are saying we have to be spiritual and nice also.
Right. It's really about coming into alignment with who we are. See, what is spirituality? Spirituality just means that what you say, what you do, and what you think are all one and the same.
Honestly.
That is spirituality. Okay. So when you are completely in alignment with who you really are, you're spiritual. And to me, that is engineering. See, what is engineering? Engineering is being in alignment with nature. If I say, well, I can build it this way and it's going to work, even though nature is saying, if you do it that way, I'm going to make it fail. Then you have to have the humility to say, nature is right and I will have to do it the way nature wants. Only then will it work, right? So engineers have humility. Always. We've always had humility because we get hit on the head whenever we deviate from nature.
Because we work with whatever is the existing systems.
Right. I mean, you have to make it work within that system, right? The existing system is in nature. Nature, I mean, what is science? Science is just describing what nature is doing to you.
Parameters are set.
Yeah, it's all set, right? So you have to be in alignment with that. So this is why when I started working on the environment, I realized that is the problem, is people are not in alignment with nature. That's all. Once we get into alignment with nature, we automatically will start doing the right thing. Right? And that means knowing that happiness comes from within you. Because that is true. That is the truth. Happiness does not come from outside. Right? We know that. Why do we know that? Because look at Ravana. He had 10 heads and every time a head was chopped off, a new head was born. Right? That's desires, right? Those are the desires. That he represents desires. The more desires you meet, the more desires you have. So you'll never be happy. You're always chasing something. But as soon as you look for happiness within yourself, you don't need to consume outside too much. Right? So that is the truth.
So you said we have to be what we are. Now many people out there think we are what we are and we love to eat animals. We love to consume. We are happy like this. You said we should be happy. And we are happy like this. I mean, that's what even Ravan thought.
Right.
I am powerful.
Right.
I am knowledgeable. I can conquer the world. Someone has to rule. I am the one.
Right. But did he win? Ravan is a bad example to use, right? Because he didn't win. Eventually he lost. So same with the Mahabharata, right? Everyone, I mean, the stories we were told all along has been look for happiness within yourself. That is the meaning of Diwali. Why are we celebrating Diwali and we don't even understand it? That's the meaning of Diwali elsewhere. Navaratri. It's all about the same thing. Look for happiness within yourself. Don't look for it outside.
The entire grandness is not that Ravan lost. Ravan lost to simplicity.
Yes.
To a simple human being with kind ethics and morality.
And with animals helping him.
Great.
Right? Nice. So, our stories have always told us that happiness comes from within us. And you don't have to look for it outside, right? And our stories have always told us to be kind to animals. So to me, what is a climate healing civilization? What is a climate heating civilization, first of all? It's based on greed is good and might is right. And no religion ever said greed is good and might is right are the right way to live. No religion ever said that. Okay? So we are going against our religions and then we are wondering why is it heating around us? Right? So now I'm saying, okay, how do you create a correct civilization? It has to be based on yoga, looking for happiness within ourselves, and ahimsa, non-violence to all beings around us.
Dharma.
Yoga and ahimsa. Who should start this? Are we waiting for the United States to start yoga and ahimsa for us? It has to begin in India. India has to take the spiritual leadership for a climate healing civilization. Okay, this is why I'm here. I'm saying, this is our legacy, and we have to help the whole planet adopt this legacy.
आपका कहना है कि योग, अहिंसा और धर्म इसी मिट्टी की देन है.
Right. That is a climate healing civilization.
अगर सही और सच्चाई में मानो तो.
Correct. Yeah.
Great. So डॉक्टर राव, आपका मैंने एक लेटेस्ट बुक पढ़ा, पिंकी प्रॉमिस, और सुनने में आया कि इतने विद्वान, इतने ज्ञानी होने के बावजूद आपको एक नया टीचर मिला है.
नया टीचर मिला है. Right. Yes.
जो ये पिंकी प्रॉमिस क्या है, समझाने में कुछ.
My granddaughter. Okay, so my granddaughter became my teacher because she's a baby. She doesn't have preconditions. So I'm going to help her stay where she is, and basically tell me her inner truth, so that I can see flaws in myself. So that's how I did it. So what happened was, when I first saw her for the first time, and she was just a month old, and I saw all humanity in her because she's half Indian, 1/4 African, and 1/4 Native American Indian. So I saw all continents in her, and I thought I was looking at humanity in my arms. And she looked up at me and she had this knowing smile. She was smiling at me saying, "Look at me, I'm perfect, and you haven't understood me yet." Right? Because until then I thought humans are the only species that doesn't belong in nature. You take human beings out, planet will be fine.
It will be better.
It will be better, right? Planet will actually thrive.
Flourish.
Yeah. But as soon as you put human beings in, planet dies. I thought we are the only species that doesn't belong in nature. But she looked at me and she said, "I belong exactly as I am. So you're not telling the right story. So you go understand me first." So that's what I started doing. I started understanding what is our role as a species. And that's how I came up with all these things that I'm telling you about what our ancestors did, right? So she started me on that journey. And because of that, I went to her when she was about 2 years old and I said, "You are the most amazing thing that ever happened to me. Okay? And that will never ever change. You can count on that, number one. Number two, I'll always love you no matter what you do. You can count on that too. And the third thing I told her is that I will never ever lie to you. I'll always tell you the truth." So that established a relationship between me and my granddaughter of absolute trust and love. Okay? And because she had that trust in me, she would tell me what was innermost in her. And through that, she was able to teach me. So I'll give you an example. Right? So I was reading Ramayana to her. The first chapter. Before I could even finish the first chapter, she stops me. She says, "What is wrong with King Dasharatha?" I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Why is he shooting a deer? What did that deer do to him? The deer was just drinking water in the river and goes and shoots it. What is wrong with him?" And then she shook her finger in my face. "Don't ever read stories like this to me again." That was the end of Ramayana as far as she was concerned. That was the end of Mahabharata. I never even bothered to get to Mahabharata because I knew it was more violent. So she didn't want to hear about violence towards animals. That is, in the core of her being. That's the way she was. And then she also didn't like any games in which there is a winner and a loser. Okay, she hated to lose. She didn't want to lose anything, but she wanted to play the game forever. So she would make up rules so that she can continue playing the game forever.
Where she doesn't lose.
So nobody loses. Nobody has to lose. So for her, the life is about infinite games. Games for as long as you want to play. You can keep playing the game. Whereas we play finite games. So I say that it's a civilization that plays finite games in which there is one winner and all the rest are losers, is a climate heating civilization. There's one winner and all the rest are losers. Everybody else is crying. Only one person is happy, right? That's a climate heating civilization.
और यहाँ civilization में आप कह सकते हैं when you say winner यानी जो पैसे बना रहा है.
Not just paise. Think about cricket. There's one winner at the end, right? Who is the number one? All the rest are losers. All tournaments have one winner and then rest are losers. Those are the games we play. See, that's what makes us who we are as a species. We play games and we tell stories. Okay? And through those two actions, we are able to coordinate our actions among millions and billions of us. Yeah? No other animals can do that. We are the ones who have figured out how to do that. And so, depending on what kind of games you play and depending on what kind of stories you tell, you're going to heat the climate or you're going to cool the climate. So, if you're playing games in which there's one winner and all the rest are losers, you're going to heat the climate. If you're telling stories in which there is always violence, you're going to heat the climate. Okay? So, if you look at our stories we tell our children, it's full of violence today. Fairy tales are full of violence. Epics are full of violence. But if you start telling stories which are non-violent and you play games that continue forever, that is a climate healing civilization. What do I mean by that? Climate healing and a climate harmonizing civilization means that you can continue with this climate forever.
So ये बात आपने सही कही कि we human, the Homo sapiens came together और हम सब जो इंसान जो मिल के इतना बड़ा बड़ा काम कर रहे हैं, ये हमारे वो स्टोरीज हैं, वो बिलीफ हैं, वो मान्यताएं हैं जो करोड़ों लोग एक साथ मानते हैं.
करेक्ट.
तो वो धर्मों की वजह से या मान्यताओं की वजह से हम सब मिल के एक काम करते हैं, वरना हम नहीं करेंगे, वरना हम छोटे छोटे गुट में ही करेंगे. सो वो बात मैं समझता हूँ. पर जहाँ तक मैं देख पा रहा हूँ, इंसान आपस में स्पर्धा करता है. वी कम्पीट and that's what helps us become better, smarter, एक winner.
Right.
I mean, and that is how excellence has happened. Possibly, हमारी जितनी भी कहानियाँ हैं, जितनी भी मान्यताएं हैं, वो सारों में वायलेंस है. जैसे रामायण में आपने बता दिया, और वो मुझे बड़ा अच्छा लगा, क्योंकि रामायण की कहानी जब भी हम पढ़ते हैं तो राजा दशरथ शिकार पे जाता था, ये बात से किसी को परहेज नहीं होता. वो एक ओके हाँ शिकार पे गया, पर शिकार क्यों की जानवरों का, वो एक मासूम दिमाग ही बता सकता या पूछ सकता. पर ऐसी कौन सी कहानी है, ऐसी कौन सी what stories exist in today's world which is a climate healing thing. इसका मुझे एक आई एम गेटिंग वन पॉसिबल एग्जाम्पल. जो जंगल में शायद छोटा सा एक ट्राइब या कबीला रहता था, वो प्रकृति के साथ रहता था. दे यूज्ड टू लिव विद नेचर इन हार्मनी एंड सो पॉसिबली दे हैड अ हीलिंग स्टोरी. पर वो स्टोरी चला नहीं. इट डिडंट वर्क, इट डिडंट स्प्रेड. सो आई एम व्हाइल आई लव व्हाट यू आर सेइंग, आई एम काइंड ऑफ क्वेश्चनिंग एंड थिंकिंग, इज इट पॉसिबल कि अ हीलिंग स्टोरी can exist?
Yeah, basically we were making it up. When my granddaughter would come and stay with us, and I had to put her to bed. I was telling stories that are healing stories. I would tell her stories that she wanted to hear. So I would make up stories that was all about healing.
But will that bring humanity and people together?
It changes our mindset, the way we think. So the first thing we need to understand is that when we tell stories of hunting, we have already said we have a right to use our weapons to kill animals. Because whatever reason we want to.
Where a simple man ends up killing a very ferocious tiger.
Right.
So our power, our grandness.
Right. So it's all about extolling that grandness, right? Now we are powerful enough, we know that we are powerful. Now we have to say we use the power for kindness. Right? Not for killing. Because there aren't enough animals now to kill. We've killed most of them already. This is not the time to be telling more stories about killing. How many tigers are left? Okay, how many bears are left? There are very few. So this is not the time to tell more stories about killing to children. Okay, this is the time to tell stories about bringing them back. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that everything we did was wrong. I'm just saying that was for then, that was for heating. Now we have to heal, and that requires us to tell different stories.
समय के साथ हमारी कहानियों को बदलना चाहिए।
करेक्ट।
जो नहीं हो रहा
है।
आप कह रहे हैं कि एक समय में शायद वो ज़रूरी था बताना कि इंसान में ये काबिलियत थी, पर अब वो एस्टैब्लिश हो चुका है कि हम हैं बढ़िया। अब भी क्यों वही कहे जा रहे हो?
Why?
और कहीं पे मैं समझता भी हूँ, जब हम बहुत सारे लोगों से कहते हैं कि अच्छा बनो, नेकी पालो, क्रूरता न करो, तो बहुत सारे लोग फॉलो नहीं करते, जुड़ते नहीं है साथ में।
Right, because we have a system that rewards selfishness, that rewards greed, that rewards apathy, right? A system that rewards it, then you say, why are people like that? Well, you rewarded it. What do you expect? You're going to get it if you reward that. If you reward selflessness, if you reward generosity, if you want that to happen, you have to create a system around it, right? That rewards that. See, the entire game of money is about selfishness, greed, and apathy.
Yeah.
Right? And it's rewarding that. And then we look up to those who have made the most money. Well, they are the ones who used that to the most, right? So, and I say you have to now start looking at things differently if you want to heal the climate. If you continue heating the climate, it's going to go out of control very soon. Okay, so that gives us a timeline as to when we do it. That's where the Pinky Promise came from, by the way. Because my granddaughter,
So sorry, sir. I mean, the point you said earlier is rewarding. That's very nice. For example, जैसे मैंने आपको देखा, पहले मैंने देखा कि आपके सूट पे लेबल कौन से लगे हैं, कितनी बड़ी कंपनी का, पर आपने कुछ और ही लेबल लगाया हुआ है। So वो लेबल देख के हमें लगता है कि मैं भी कब वो लेबल पाऊंगा? When will I become that successful? और वो सक्सेसफुल होने का मापदंड ये है कि वो ब्रांड मैं पहन सकता हूँ कि नहीं, उतने पैसे में कमा सकता हूँ कि नहीं. So that's how the society rewards us. Right. That if I want to be successful, I have to also be as selfish, earn that much money.
Right.
Be that much.
Grab more for yourself.
Grab more for myself.
Yeah. See, it's a system that's based on stopping flows.
Sorry?
Stopping the flow.
Stopping the flow.
You know, anything that's flowing, we want to stop it and hold it.
Oh.
Right? So money is flowing, we stop it and hold it.
Oh.
Right? Instead, look at Lakshmi. Lakshmi always has money flowing out of her. Right? Money should be flowing through you. Instead, we stop it and hold it. Why? Because that's what is rewarded in the system. The system is saying, if you don't stop it and hold it, it may go away and you won't have anything left.
ये आप और इसीलिए कि लक्ष्मी मेरे घर पे अटकी रहे, इसलिए हम लक्ष्मी की जो मूर्ति है, जो पूजा भी है, उसका स्थापना करके अंदर करते हैं ताकि लक्ष्मी अंदर रह जाए. और जो अलक्ष्मी होती है, who is considered to be the unlucky or whatever, उसको हम दरवाजे पे लगाते हैं कि बाहर से ही निकल जाओ भैया, आना नहीं. So the entire thinking is around that.
Thinking is around holding, right? So you need to now think around flowing, making things flow. Water should flow, you know, trees should grow. So it's about flowing. Everything should be flowing more.
प्रकृति एक बहाव है.
Yes.
And we have to be a part of that बहाव.
Right.
That flow.
That flow. And
सबके साथ.
And that is engineering. Engineering is also that. Okay, it's about being in alignment with nature. And so this is why, you know, I kept thinking, why me? Why did this happen to me? Why was I rooted to the seat? I couldn't get up, and I had to watch this Al Gore's presentation on TV, you know. And why did this little girl look at me and say, "You are it"? And I realized I'm a systems engineer. This is systems engineering 101. Because as soon as we admit that we're changing the climate of the planet, now there are 8 billion engineers on the planet. Whether we like it or not, we are all engineers. Because we've all been given a steering wheel saying, heat or heal the climate. Okay.
क्या चुनोगे?
Yeah, which way do you want to go, right? Right now we have a system that's saying, all of us, heat. The more you heat, the more wealth you get.
More rewarding this side.
This side is, right? So now you have to make everyone go the other way, right? So how do you do that? It's a system transformation. And so system transformation like that, you need systems engineers looking at it saying, how do you do it?
So, when you told me about your granddaughter, कि जब आपने उस मासूम
my boss.
So, जब आपने उस बच्चे के बारे में बताया कि कैसे उसकी मासूमियत ने, उसके खुले मन ने, उसके निस्वार्थ जो सवाल हैं, उसने कैसे आपको झंझोड़ दिया, तो मुझे अपनी बेटी याद आई कि मेरी बच्ची भी वैसी ही थी.
Exactly.
और मेरा मानना है कि सिर्फ मुझे ही नहीं, हर किसी को याद आया होगा कि हर किसी के घर पे ऐसी एक नन्ही परी आई थी या शहजादा आया था जिसने ये सारे सवाल उठाए थे.
Exactly.
और लोगों ने उन सवाल को क्या किया, दबा दिया.
Right.
कि तू गलत सोच रहा है, तू गलत बोल रही है, ऐसे नहीं होता, तेरा कुछ नहीं होगा, ये कर, ये मान, और ये राइट स्टेयरिंग मार, हीटिंग क्योर और रिवॉर्ड ले.
Right. That's the issue. So as long as you are listening to the children have the answer. Meaning we have the answer within us. We always did. We know the answer within us too. Okay. So I say that climate change is not about governments. It's not about corporations. It's not about greenhouse gas emissions. It's about us. Who are we as a species? Right? And it's about each one of us saying, that's who I really am. Okay? You are much bigger than you think you are. But that requires humility first. You have to let go.
So बहुत उत्सुक हूँ मैं. I am very curious to know कि ये बच्चे के साथ क्या पिंकी प्रॉमिस किया आपने? Exactly क्या प्रॉमिस किया आपने?
See, because I told her that I would never ever lie to her, she would always ask me questions that she had doubts about. So then, I would explain to her how things actually worked. So one day, as an engineer, I was looking at biodiversity laws as the leading indicator for how soon we have to change and become a climate healing civilization. And the numbers are always saying 2026. You have to do it by 2026. Okay, several different paths were saying 2026. So one was the rate at which we are killing wild animals. So we killed 52% of wild animals between 1970 and 2010. And that became 58% by 2012. And that number came out in 2016 because it takes them 4 years to compile the data. So 2016, when I read that report and it said 58%, I calculated it will be 100% by 2026 at that rate, right? So then that evening I was reading a story to my granddaughter in bed. And at the end of the story, she put her head on my shoulders and she said, "Grandpa, who were the first human beings?" Now this is a very profound question. And I was trying to explain to her how evolution works. So I said, imagine that you're standing on the street and you're holding your mother by your hand. And you ask your mother to bring her mother to stand by her side and so on. So you create a long line of mothers on this side of the street. And on the other side of the street, you ask a chimpanzee to do the same thing with her mother and her grandmother and so on. By the time these two lines go from Phoenix to Tucson, which is about 200 kilometers, they will merge because both lines are going to say, "Hey, that's my mama too." Immediately she just sat up in bed. She said, "What? Are you telling me that animals are my family?" Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam became visceral for her. And I said, now that he put it that way, they are your family. Because honestly, I hadn't put it together like that. I only knew the theory of evolution. For her, it became visceral. She said, then why are people eating my family? Grandpa, make them stop. And she was naming names of people she knows who were eating her family. Okay? And I realized I had created a world full of monsters for my granddaughter by trying to be truthful to her. So I was trying to console her. And I was saying, "Kimaya, please stop crying. It's my job to make them stop." So I assure you, I'm working on it. It's my job to make them stop. Immediately she stopped crying. She looked at me, wide-eyed. She said, "This is your job? You know I haven't done your job." And she said, "Do your job. When will you do your job?" And I blurted out, "I better do it by 2026, otherwise we're all in big trouble. Because if we kill all the wild animals, there is no future for us on this planet." And she said, will you promise me that? I said, okay, I'll promise you that. She said, will you give me a pinky promise? And I had no idea what it meant. I said, yeah, I'll give you a pinky promise. She said, hold out your pinky. And then she locked her pinky in mine and she said, you can never ever break a pinky promise. And then she put her head on my shoulders again and went to sleep. And I couldn't sleep because I realized I'd made a very serious promise to a little girl on behalf of my generation that we will stop the killing by 2026. Okay? We will stop the killing because we've killed enough already. I mean, how much more do you want to kill? Until there is no animal left? Is that when you stop? So I realized, I had made a very serious promise, but at first I thought, who am I to make this promise? There are presidents and prime ministers who are walking around making decisions about how much to kill. And I'm just an engineer working on this, right? Then I finally dozed off and went to sleep. And I woke up the next morning realizing this is exactly my job. This is what a systems engineer is supposed to do. Show people how you can transform from climate heating to climate healing. Show people how you can do it. Because anytime an engineering project starts, people always come to a systems engineer and say, show us how to do it. Systems engineering is the beginning of any engineering project. Okay? Climate healing is an engineering project. And my systems engineering is the beginning of it.
So आपकी पोती ने आपको एक deadline दी थी.
It's not a deadline, it's a lifeline. She gave us a lifeline. Okay? If you do this by this time, you will live. To me, it's just when we think, well, we are going to have to stop sometime, and there is no time, we think it will happen later and later and later. We just keep postponing, right? Because we want to be comfortable in whatever we are doing. But as soon as you have a lifeline, a line like that, a timeline like that, we work towards it. I've seen this in engineering as well. If I don't have a timeline by the time I have to finish something, people just float around doing things. As soon as I put a timeline saying, you better do it by 2003, which is what happened to me for the internet also, right? Intel said, you better do it by 2003 February. And we worked hard to make it happen. And we finished by 2003 February. And it was on every motherboard. The chip was on every motherboard of Intel. So we sold 150 million units the first year. And the internet took off. Because we had a line, a timeline.
So आपकी पोती totally correct.
Totally correct.
She is right because from what little I know, our DNA matches with almost all animals. It varies by 2%, 3%, 4%.
Right.
हमारा DNA सारे जानवरों के साथ मेल खाता है. कहीं ना कहीं जो बताता है कि हम सब एक ही पौधे से अलग-अलग हुए हैं.
Right. So they are her relatives.
Sure.
She is saying
Not her relatives. Our relatives.
Right. Our relatives, yeah.
और अपने स्वार्थ में हम अपनों को ही खाते हैं, अपनों को ही लूटते हैं, अपनों का ही शोषण करते हैं.
And we stopped doing that with our own species, remember? We used to eat our own species too. We stopped doing that.
Yeah.
Maybe 100 years ago, not too long ago, right? Until then we used to eat other people, right? And I'm saying, okay, we now have to expand that to say...
Narbakshi, cannibalism.
Cannibalism, yeah. And now we don't do that anymore. It's considered, something bad to do, right? So the same thing is going to happen with eating animals.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, the timeline seems so short, but then things have changed that fast in the past. See, when I started working on the internet in 1993, people told me, what is this internet? Who's going to read things on the internet? Who's going to buy stuff off the internet? You're wasting your time.
Sure.
And then 10 years later, in 2003, when we finished making gigabit Ethernet happen, I overheard someone say, I cannot live without the internet. So 10 years ago, he didn't even know what it was. And suddenly he couldn't live without it, right? So it was a huge shift, non-linear shift that happened. So we have seen so many such non-linear shifts. In fact, history is just a list of all the non-linear shifts that happened. And because we don't chronicle, we don't take care of, look at things that kept being the same. That's not interesting. What is interesting is something changed. That's interesting. Same way, going vegan, getting to a vegan world by 2026, that is interesting. And that's what's going to happen.
I'm quite happy hearing you say this. I mean, because I think I got quite impacted by that, quite impressed by your granddaughter. And it was impacting me as to what are we doing? We need to rush. So I'm happy if this happens. I hope it happens. We have a short frame of time. So,
yeah. See, it's not hope, right? I mean, hope comes from a position of fear, saying, I think it's not going to happen, but I'm hoping it will. Faith comes from a position of love. Faith says, in my mind, it's already happened. In 2026, it's already happened. And so I'm just going to work towards it. See, in engineering, you always start by assuming that you're going to meet your deadline or your lifeline. In this case, it's a lifeline, right? You assume that you're going to meet that. And then you work your way backwards and say, how do I meet that? If someone comes and says, do it by this time, and I say, I don't think it can be done, they'll never give me that job. They'll tell me, go away, right? So as soon as, we set a line, and I say, can it be done? Of course it can be done. Eating dal chawal and roti sabji, this is not complicated stuff. Idli sambar. I mean, you can eat a lot of delicious food, as Indians especially, right? We know what to do. So, we know what to eat. We know how to behave. Ahimsa is in our DNA. It's built into our core of who we are, especially in India, right? So, we know what to do. So, can we not do it? Of course you can do it. That's the first step in any engineering project. Is it feasible? Can it be done? As soon as you say it can be done, then it's a matter of how do you do it.
So, मेरा तो सोचना ऐसा है कि अहिंसा आपके डीएनए में लिखा हो या ना हो, अगर नहीं भी हो तो मिटाओ और लिखो, क्योंकि इसकी ज़रूरत है.
ज़रूरत है, absolutely.
और मेरे ख्याल से नॉन लीनियर शिफ्ट से आपका मतलब है कि ऐसा एक आम फ्लो चल रहा है और इसके बाद ये होगा, ये होगा, ये होगा. लेकिन इंसान ने जब भी कुछ अलग नया कदम उठाया, कुछ अलग से किया, तब जाके मानवता का इतना डेवलपमेंट हुआ, कुछ नया हुआ, कुछ अलग हुआ.
And that's what we that's what we note down. When did the internet take off? We note that down.
जैसे इंटरनेट बड़ा नया चीज, अलग चीज, देखो कैसे पलट दिया दुनिया को.
Right. Same thing, right? What has it done? It's connected us around the whole world. So we see other people as just like us. They're all just like us. Because we were one family in Africa before we went to every part of the world.
Sure.
50,000 years ago. Not too long ago, 50,000 years ago, we were one family. And now she's saying, become one family again and take care of all the other animals because they are also your family.
Sure. दूसरा कोई चारा ही नहीं है मेरे ख्याल से. दिस इज इट. आई मीन होमो सेपियंस उस समय कैसा भी था, पर आज का इंसान को कैसा होना चाहिए, वी हैव टू बी दैट.
राइट. So I say it's also transforming from Homo sapiens to Homo ahimsa. Because Homo sapiens means the wise hominid. There is a lot of narcissism in saying I'm wise. I've never met a wise person saying I'm wise. Look at me, listen to me, I'm wise. No. You have to have the humility to realize God speaks through every one of us. Okay.
And you're right, actually. We humans are the ones who ended up naming those different Neanderthals and whatever, and we said this, from where we come, is the Homo sapien.
Yeah, the
wise, the intelligent, the smart one.
Yeah. I mean, everyone has wisdom in them.
Sure.
You know? So what is wisdom is really just knowing how to be in alignment with reality. If you go kill yourself, that's not wise. Right? So, if you kill off everything, that's not wise. So, as soon as if you want to be wise, you shouldn't be calling yourself wise.
हाँ, बराबर.
right? So
विद्वान अपने आप को विद्वान नहीं बुलाता, अगर बुला रहा है तो अहंकारी है, पता ही नहीं उसे.
So we are ahankaris right now when we call ourselves Homo sapiens. I said we have to change our name from Homo sapiens to Homo ahimsa. So instead of describing our characteristic, we have to describe our character.
So डॉक्टर शैलेश राव ऐसे शख्स हैं जो 2005 से इन्होंने सिर्फ अपने आप को ही नहीं, अपने संसाधनों की नहीं, अपने पैसे, अपना सब कुछ समर्पण कर दिया है इस एक मुद्दे के लिए कि चलिए पर्यावरण बचाएं, चलिए पशुओं को बचाएं, चलिए अच्छा इंसान बने. आपसे मिलके सच में बहुत अच्छा लगा. आपने ये बातें बताई, आप जैसे महान शख्स के साथ हम बैठे और आपने ये सारी बातें हमें बहुत सिंपल में बताया. इन्होंने हमें जितनी भी बातें बताई बहुत सिंप्लिसिटी में बताया, वरना इन्होंने किताब लिखी है, इनके थीसिस हैं, इनके बड़े बड़े रिसर्च पेपर्स हैं जो आधे से ज़्यादा हमें समझ में नहीं आता. बट यू हैव टेकन केयर टू एक्सप्लेन इट टू अस इन अ नाइस वे, इन अ सिंपल वे. वी रियली अप्रिशिएट दैट.
Thank you.
So thank you very much, sir.